I was brought on or kind of raised with the guys that were started in the late 80s, early 90s.
Mm-hmm. They're still shooting revolvers.
They had just transferred from revolvers. It's funny you say that. Yeah. They had just transferred from revolvers probably 4 years, maybe 5 years before I started there. They went to Glocks. They had Gen 1. They were literally carrying Gen 1 Glock 17s at that time.
Did most of the guys hate them?
No, they actually loved them.
Okay.
Because they didn't like the requalification course for Ohio at that point. Because then revolver, I mean, you had to shoot, was it 6 rounds standing from 75 feet, do a reload, go to prone and shoot 6 more rounds. And the time was like 65 seconds or something. Like you were moving.
Like, what's the maximum that we do handgun now? It's just
25 feet.
Yeah, 25
feet and it's 3 rounds.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
in
nothing.
like 35 seconds.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Let's go over that whole qualification because that was one of the questions I had. What is the actual like start to finish OPATA qualification?
Yeah, so the course is only 25 rounds. It starts out at very close distance, basically touch distance to a target. Mm-hmm. You got to, it's all that first 3 rounds is from the hip, then you back up and you got 2 to the body, 1 to the head. You back up again. I think you're at 12 feet. Then you've got strong hand 4 rounds, support hand 4 rounds. Then you go back up to 21 feet, and then you go 3 reload 3, and then you back up the 10-yard line or 30 feet, and you've got 2 rounds. And then you go back to the 50-footer and you've got 3 rounds. So it's a very quick course.
Yeah. But I think quick isn't even a great word because honestly, for what we're shooting, you get a lot of time. I mean, for 3 rounds, we've gone to private classes before. It's like, 3 rounds. We're like 1.5, 2 seconds, these 3 rounds in like 5 seconds.
Yeah. You have a lot of time. The 3 reload 3 is 12 seconds or is it 12 or is it 9? No, I think it's 12.
Yeah.
It is 12. It was 9 originally. And then there was too many complaints out of that it was going to be too rough. So then it went to 12 seconds. And it's a ton of time.
Yeah.
Some of the guys like on our SWAT team, we'll run it backwards. So we'll start at the 50 feet. Mm-hmm. We'll load up the magazine with 8 rounds. So we'll shoot 3 from 50, the 2 from 10. Or 30 feet. And then we'll run it as a continuous clock and they'll just make them remember the course. Mm-hmm. And I think total time is like 52 seconds or something. Mm-hmm. And most of the time they do it like 34, 35 seconds.
Yeah,
so
it's crazy. But what was it? It was around 2013, 2014 when they changed it because it used to be. So when I went in the Army, it was 2010. When I came back in 2014, I went to do my qualification and I did the 25 rounds and I was like, all right, what do I load up next? And they're like, no, that's it.
Yeah.
Because it used to be what security still does.
Yeah.
OPATA security still does.
Rounds. Yeah. It was 60 rounds. They started looking at changing it in 2009 or 2010. And then I think it was 11 or 12 when they officially changed that. So, yeah.
I'm going to assume you guys, you've talked about this before. Mm-hmm. You don't think that's really satisfactory, but.
Right. Is it sufficient?
I mean, it's a minimum. I mean, I think that's the big thing that people need to understand. That is a minimum requirement.
Right.
We're not saying that.
But do you think the bar is too low?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah. Completely. I mean, again, I didn't really touch a handgun for 4 years while I was in the Army, and I went and I just did it completely. Hey, here's the gun you're going to be shooting. And, sadly, and we've had this discussion before, it was my XD40.
What the hell is even that?
Brother.
Out of my Serpa holster. I know. I've learned and I've grown.
Can we just take him off the podcast?
We tried. He came back.
It's like Survivor.
Yeah, I have grown. I've matured.
You sure about that?
Yeah, not really. No. Yeah. But I mean, I passed the qualification. It wasn't great. It was like I call it. It was a torso shooter, but I still passed with 100%.
Yeah, like you said, you were an armpit to armpit shooter.
Yeah. Back then I was.
Mm-hmm. But you were stoked about it.
Yes.
I mean, to be fair.
Yeah.
So, and again, and you can attest to this, my first 10 years was all OPATA training. Mm-hmm. It was all OPATA classes, which was not training. It was you're passing a test.